The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all the ships at sea. Thank you so much for joining us on another exciting Page One Power webinar. In these shows, we typically explore a single topic relevant to the online search and marketing community, including your questions from the audience. And today is no different. Our topic centers around conversion rate optimization, or CRO, as they say in the business. Please follow us on Twitter at PageOnePower and follow the global webinar conversation with this webinar's hashtag P1P webinar. But before we dive into it, let's introduce our panel, shall we? As always, I am Colin Eggleston, your friendly neighborhood marketing events coordinator here at Page One Power. And joining us today is Ryan Meghdies, CEO and digital marketing guru of Tastic Marketing. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, no worries. Thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely. Very happy to have you on. And Ryan is going to be talking to us today about conversion rate optimization. During the presentation, feel free to submit your questions through the GoToWebinar interface, and we will address them as time permits. We're really excited to kind of start our conversation here today, Ryan. There's a lot of really good stuff to cover. So I'll go ahead and I'll change the presenter over to you, good sir, and we shall get started.
Awesome.
Okay, it should be over on your end. Okay, good. Like I can see your screen.
Perfect. Everything's good. You can see this?
Looks good. Yep, I see the question and answer slide.
Awesome. Well, I guess to get started, let's define conversion rate optimization. And I think this definition I've come up with does a really good job of it. Conversion rate optimization is the process of enticing a greater percentage of website visitors to complete a desired action. And so I think a lot of people are a little bit hesitant in terms of what is a conversion exactly. And a conversion really is any action you want to be taken, whether that's a form filled, call received, purchase completed, or something as a smaller touch point like a subscription or an article being read. So how do we calculate conversion rates? Conversion rate is calculated by the number of conversions divided by the website traffic. So for example, if we have 100 visitors coming to the website and 3 people convert, then you have a 3% conversion rate. Really, that's if you're familiar with Google AdWords or Google Analytics, you're quite familiar with conversion rates, and it's an important KPI, key performance indicator, to be watching. So, to increase conversions, all I've did is rearrange the formula, and we know that greater conversions, either we increase website traffic or we can increase the conversion rate. And what we're very much used to talking about is increasing website traffic. So, let's do some SEO, let's do some paid advertising, let's get some link building going so that we can increase domain authority and rank higher. That's where website traffic comes in. But I feel like what's rarely talked about, unfortunately, is conversion rates. And it's a large opportunity to capitalize on existing traffic, and really more than that, which we're going to get into. So why do conversion rates matter? Well, a conversion is essentially the process of moving your traffic into paying customers. And we all want money when we're running a business. So let's not leave some money on the table. We want to increase the number of conversions with that traffic that we have coming to us. But it's more than that, really. Conversion rate optimization also lends value to perceived brand value, customer experience, and provides competitive advantage. And I'll actually give a couple of examples of that later in this presentation. But when you have a website, we can all think of a website that simply has a frustrating user experience. We don't know, we clicked on one ad, we ended up somewhere else. We're trying to find that offer or that product or the pricing. It's difficult to navigate. Versus think of that really clever website. I mean, I love Amazon, and I can find the product I want, make 2 clicks, and I've got that product shipping to me the next day. A great user experience. What ends up happening is not only do I trust the company more, but I end up coming back. So we can start to see how having a user experience that is optimized for the customer, where it's clear and concise and easy, this all lends value to providing these advantages. So,
and Ryan, sorry, just to jump in real quick, I just we as an SEO and in this industry, to your point there, it's so easy to get caught up in optimizing for robots, for crawlers, that we forget a lot about the human experience, and I think that's such a we can't emphasize that point enough.
yeah, and I think that what we're seeing with Google's trend is, in terms of SEO, is really, designed for the user. And I think, I've actually got a big background in programming, and I think that's lended well to my just giving me a little bit of an edge when I'm doing SEO for my clients, because at the end of the day, I know that what Google's trying to do, a lot of people think there's like magic behind the scenes, but Google's trying to build an algorithm to give the customer what they want. And if that experience you have right now is spammy, as their AI gets better, they're going to know about that. And more importantly, that's why we're seeing things like click-through rates and bounce rates coming into play with positioning. Now, click-through rates is a bit of a rabbit trail here, but for example, when we're talking about click-through rates and bounce rates, if you're not on the first page of Google, you've got other things to worry about. But when you are on that first page of Google, if you have a higher click-through rate than the guy above you, you're probably going to get pushed up. So we're talking about excellent copywriting, which we're going to get into in a little bit in this presentation. And then once they're on that page, the bounce rate, do people enjoy the experience? And this is how Google's trying to model it out right now. But there's definitely going to be more of an advanced algorithm to say, for example, Google targeting pop-ups depending on what they're doing in a negative way. So
true.
Yeah. All right. So I guess the question is, who needs conversion rate optimization? That's what CRO stands for. And the answer to that is really everyone. The question is when. And I can't stress this enough. I mean, I've had businesses come to me and say, I need conversion rate optimization. And these guys are set. They're like, you're either going to give us conversion rate optimization or you're not getting our business. And it's like, I very much believe in running my business in a strategic and honest way. And so I'm happy to, lose business if necessary. But the question of when is so important, and let's hop in and see why. So here's Uncle Larry's hot tubs. Uncle Larry spends $60,000 a year in marketing for 5 years consecutively. His internet marketing agency is doing an incredible job in increasing traffic 40% year over year. So in 2012, he has 2,000 monthly visitors. By 2016, he's got just over 7,500 monthly visitors. Their conversion rate is 2.35%. And I pulled that number out because WordStream actually did a study and said the average landing page conversion rate is 2.35%. You guys might be surprised by that number, but you can look into it a little bit more. WordStream has some great stuff there. You'll have to excuse my cough, by the way. I've had a bit of a cough these last few days. So what does that work out to? Oh, just ignore the colors for now. If I were to take my conversion rate and multiply that by my monthly visitors, and then multiply that by 12, we end up with 564 leads that year. And we can see that number increasing. Now, what would happen if instead of investing just in SEO, PPC, whatever you're doing right now to increase traffic, you were to take some of that budget in, let's say, the end of the second year and move that into conversion rate optimization? Well, what we did is increase the conversion rate to 3.5%. That small increase of 1.15% actually lends well to conversions. And this is where the colors come in. We can see that immediately, even though there's a 10%, so instead of a 40% increase in traffic in that third year, we only see a 10% increase. And I think I'm over exaggerating the increase being penalized that much to make a point. We end up with 6,000 versus 7,600, and yet we still have almost 400 more leads per year by the fifth year there, or the third year into conversion optimizing our website. Translating that into revenue, 6,171, 6,992. Assume a sales close rate. So let me back up for a second. We have a marketing funnel and we have the sales funnel, or the sales pipeline, whatever you'd like to call that. We take the number of leads coming into the marketing funnel and funnel them down from top to middle to bottom of funnel. Once that lead converts, it goes into the sales funnel. Now, the conversion within the sales funnel is different. Let's call that the sales close rate. So these are the leads that came into the sales pipeline. 33% of them close, turning into actual business. And we've calculated, let's say, the average lifetime acquisition value at 3,250. And I'm not going to get into the definition of this, but let's just say that that customer made a $3,250 purchase. We can simplify it that way. We can see that there's an increase in ROI simply by reallocating that 10K of $880,000 for this one business, Uncle Larry's Hot Tubs. Any questions so far on this one, Colin? Am I explaining this all right?
Oh, it's absolutely stellar, and I think that a lot of times we start to kind of think about just pushing money through here and there, but when you actually break it down and look at a budget spend of that 10K, and the ROI on that, even though we're getting less traffic and in a way substantially less traffic, that traffic is performing better, and we're taking advantage of that traffic, and it earns us so much more money in the long run as well. And I think it's so important to kind of keep that in mind as business owners, as website owners, as even as agencies doing work on behalf of clients. This type of information I could take to a C-suite executive and say, hey, let's lop off 10,000, drop it into a CRO pipeline, and let's see these dividends really kind of pad the bottom line.
Exactly. And why we came into these examples, just to remind you guys, is the question of when, right? This is so important. And so this worked out for Uncle Larry, and that's awesome. But let's look at Betty's business booths. So she provides business booths for businesses going to trade shows. She's a much more niche market, so she doesn't have the same level of traffic. Betty's business is a local business. She doesn't need 10 conversions a week. She only needs, a couple, and she's doing quite well for herself, right? It's important to realize that in one industry, yes, let's go for the 10,000 visitors a month or 100,000 visitors a month. In another industry, you're killing it if you're pulling in 2 leads a day. That's going to depend on you and the decision you'll have to make. But let's take a look at what Betty did. So Betty got pitched by another agency. This agency was doing really well with increasing traffic. It was actually, excuse me, outperforming the previous agency. It was a 60% increase in traffic year over year. But she decided to reallocate into conversion optimization. And we can see it was a little bit too early. She had a big jump in terms of, it gets more difficult the higher you go up, right? Moving from 2% to 3% versus 5% to 6%, it gets more difficult. So she's at a 4.5% conversion rate, but we can see the leads actually dropped. So it's really important to ask the question of when is it right for me to invest into conversion optimization. So I ran the numbers through here again. She's got a 21% close rate, and as a result, she lost 324. Assume her close rate was higher, that number is going to be even worse. So again, that question of when is really important. All right, so I guess a lot of people are going to ask me, what's a good conversion rate? That's a bit of a loaded question because not all conversions are created equally. So let's take a look at some examples. This is one of my clients, and the medium in which we're advertising, whether it's, by the way, can you see my mouse pointer?
I can, yeah.
Perfect. The difference between SEO, paid advertising, social, and email is very different. So here's a perfect example. This client has a 60% higher conversion rate in paid advertising as opposed to organic, and yet that's an incredible organic conversion rate. What would be incredible for this industry, however, I'll get into in my next slides, may not be for the next one. So we really need to look at the medium before we talk about what's a good conversion rate. The next one is what's the conversion objective? I mean, if I have a 90% conversion rate on reading an article, which some people want that. They want people to, they want to track, did this person read 3 articles this month? That's a goal they've set up in Google Analytics. Did this person go from page A to page B? That's a goal. So we have to look at what's the conversion objective. Some people want to obtain brand exposure. So they're sending out 100,000 impressions in a Facebook ads campaign, maybe only receiving a 1.5% conversion rate or lower. And that was what they wanted. They want their KPI, their key performance indicator, was the 100,000 impressions to a segmented audience. And the final point I have in here is the industry and conversion type. So, excuse me, trying to sell a phone case that costs $30 versus an all-inclusive vacation. If I have a considered purchase versus non-considered purchase, it's very different. I can go to a website and within 2 minutes have that item shipping to me, but I'm going to shop around for my all-inclusive vacation. And so we have to consider the difference between these two considered and non-considered purchase types. You might have to have smaller conversions when you're trying to sell the all-inclusive vacation. For example, if you're trying to sell an all-inclusive vacation, maybe the first conversion, type of conversion, is getting people to subscribe to your newsletter. The next thing is to send out newsletters about, get them to fill out a survey about when they like to travel and what destinations they'd want to travel to. Then you get them excited about something at that time leading up, shoot them a deal, and tell them, hey, book this. Once they're on that site, if they leave, you shoot them an email saying, hey, we saw you left. If you buy right now, we'll give you $100 off or $500 off your ticket if you buy within the next half hour. So those are all touch points. We're going to need more touch points for that all-inclusive vacation as the example versus that phone case where really that's a drop down the credit card, buy it now, I'm not really thinking about this. And then obviously product versus service, B2B versus B2C, all of these need to be taken into account. And I guess, I mean, my clients are doing really, really well here, but here's a business funding client and here's a law firm. These are both really impressive. But if my business funding client said, well, why don't I have 19%? Well, it's because you're in different industries. Yes, you're both B2B, but it's a different audience. It's a different purchase. So we need to really take that into account. Are we all right so far? Any questions?
No, that looks good. I think, there's not all industries are, not all types of websites are necessarily, the same with the same ends. And it's important to kind of be able to kind of separate those into kind of different, almost different silos in a sense to kind of treat that data discreetly. you can't compare if you're a lawyer and you just want people to sign up or fill out a contact form compared to people buying organic coffee. Yeah, and so those conversion rates, those products are so different. And so, yeah, it's really important to kind of keep those things in mind.
Excellent. Awesome. So let's take a look over here at how we approach CRO. And really, the thing about approaching CRO is there's many ways of approaching it. I break it down into two ways, which I will get to in a following slide. But first of all, it's really important to note that whoever you're working with to do CRO, whether it's internal or an agency you've hired, whatever it is, my definition of marketing is define a problem and solve a problem within that marketing pipeline. And I think that the cookie cutter method that has been taking place for this past decade or even longer simply won't be working anymore. We have to realize that there's 10 within a local area, there's probably 20, 30, let's just take law firms, for example. Within my geographic region, there's probably 40 different law firms within a 10-kilometer, 15-kilometer radius, all competing for that first page of Google for, let's say, intellectual property law. Well, what makes yours better? Well, it's about what's the problem we're approaching. And I'll just give a couple of examples here. So I actually had a nutritionist come to me, and she had a smaller budget. And so what we did is we defined the problem with SEO, and we said, okay, look, this is the type of engagement you will require in order to meet this objective. That actually doesn't sound like it's going to work for you given the budget you have. Actually, what's going to work better for you, or even probably comparably well to SEO, is getting into moms groups. And so what we did is we worked with this nutritionist, and we made her some graphics for portfolio kits that she can hand to clients so she can look very professional. We worked with her in branding in those regards, and then helped her set up social media portfolios that she can manage on her own, and showed her how, meetup.com, get in there, find these mom groups, network. You're already somebody who wants to help people. All you need to do is, hand up that business card when they ask for it, and you're in business. And so we can see in this one case, we have a problem being defined, and the solution that we decided on was specific to that business. And it's so important, versus another company that had come to us, that conversion optimization company, for that company that said, hey, we only want conversion optimization, give us conversion optimization. I'm looking at it saying, we actually won't have the data to properly perform A/B testing, which is what I'll get into down a few slides later. So I'm sorry, this is a bad idea. We need to increase your traffic. Now's not the time. It's so important to stop and define that problem before we start making a cookie cutter solution. Hey, I need a website, I'm starting a business. Well, do you? Is that the best use of your money? Because a crappy website's not going to get you to the finish line. Take that money, maybe join a chamber of commerce or etc. Anyway, I'm just very passionate about this solution because I see so many small businesses, I guess, just make the mistake of investing in marketing that's just not helping them. And I feel for them, to be honest. All right, so again, approaching CRO, there's two ways that I do this. So one is best practices and one is A/B testing services. So what happens with best practices is we draw on the professional you're working with, our expertise to enhance the convertibility of a website with high probability. So for example, somebody comes to me and says, Ryan, I want to sell engagement rings. Somebody that came to me recently. Great. We researched their industry. We meet with them, we talk about their customers, we understand what their needs are, both online research and speaking to the owner. And we know that this is the type of design, these are the types of call to actions, this is the information that needs to be on the website in order to succeed. And we use that to capture and draw the attention to the areas that are necessary to convert. And we've done incredibly well here. And so can you. We'll get into this a little bit later. And then there's A/B testing. A/B testing is great for certain people. Calculations are required to determine if this is suitable for you. It is more expensive oftentimes because A/B testing is a process. This is best practices. We're doing what we think is best, and we're doing a good job of that. Here we're saying, okay, I'm going to create a hypothesis. We're going to analyze data. We're going to create a hypothesis. We're going to design a solution. Then we're going to test that solution. We're going to capture data. We're going to review that data. And we're going to see, did we meet our objective? Yes, great. No, create another hypothesis and reiterate. So and it's important to know that great agencies, brilliant minds in conversion optimization, there is no way to say, this is what needs to be done. This button needs to be blue, and this needs to be 20 pixels, and we need a picture of, somebody attractive looking, holding a puppy, and that's the solution. I think, through the process of me just speaking on this topic a lot, the most common thing I hear is, oh, I saw this case study and red buttons work best. Make all the buttons that say purchase now red, and that should solve our problem. But I really want to emphasize now, if you're hearing about CRO for the first time or know it, that stay away from that pitfall. I'm actually going to show you examples of things that are almost rules in conversion optimization that fall flat on their face when they're implemented on one person's website. So it's really, you're going to run tests and it's not always going to give you that increase. It's about making sure you have a process that leads you to the increase. So let's go to this next slide here. So here's a customer, Nirvana. If you search Indian restaurant, they're in second place for Mississauga. That's fantastic. This is what we're used to talking about. We're used to talking about search results. And so there we go. Fantastic. But here's the thing. We launched this website for them. And within the first, I can't remember if it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks, the owner actually mentioned that they had their entire restaurant, 200 people booked out. And the guy that came back and said, gave them the reasoning why, said that their website looked the best and it looked so clean and it looked like it represented their brand so well. That was the number one reason why he actually decided to approach them and book their restaurant. So again, going back to that slide, I think, do I have it? Sorry, 1 second here. Yeah, over here. Going back to this slide, this is why we was talking about perceived brand value, customer experience, and a competitive advantage. We can see that a website that's designed well can run value there. And so let's look at conversion optimization best practices. What we did is we made sure the location was front and center, both in the header, in the main section, because there are lots of times where I have some I need to work with a local business for something, and I end up on websites. I have no idea if this business is local. And in a restaurant industry, that's really important. We want to make sure that the contact details are right there, and reservations are also easy to be made. So with reservations, these, if you're on mobile, this section right here fits perfectly onto a mobile browser, making it a two-stage form that makes it very easy to make that reservation. And obviously you can imagine that conversion rate for this was actually very high. having the directions here, if I'm trying to get to this restaurant or I need to make a phone call, having that front and center. What's the necessary information that needs to be read? Many people will throw information here. Maybe it's trying to put up menu items and etc. But is that really what needs to be there right now? Well, for the user, no. I want to know when you open. I want to know how to get there, and then give me some trust factors. What's the number one thing we're looking at with restaurants? Reviews. I want to know what the place looks like. Give them an emotional connection. So we can see some of the thought behind this. And then here's another client example. And really the three principles that I primarily try and answer, three questions that I really try and answer when designing a website are, who are you? What are you offering? And how do I get in touch? And I think this is really clear. Who are you? We're Express Business Funding. What are you offering? Invoice factoring. Great. How do I get in touch? Well, try not to get in touch on this page. I mean, it's so clean, but it's everywhere. It's hard to escape it. If I scroll down for more information, because there is more information below on this page, you still have call to actions there and even below this, but it's done in such a clean way. And let's just see this. So I added where, because this is important to the client. Businesses like to work with, oh yeah, I'm Canadian, eh? Canadian businesses receiving funding from a Canadian business. Adding on to that, page relevant content that's quality. So oftentimes, maybe the headline's right, and then you get into the content, and the content's actually about something else, or it's not exactly what you wanted. Well, you can get into branching off and things a little bit later on if you really need to. But right now, this is a bottom of funnel page. This is where people are saying, I'm looking for an invoice factoring company. Great. Tell me about this invoice factoring company. Tell me about, stick to and provide quality content. And again, we need to be talking more about this than, again, this company's ranking second for their hardest keyword with the largest traffic. But this is what I wanted to show you. These are their rankings going up. Year over year, they've had 100% increase in traffic, but they had a 400% increase in conversions. And that's where, you can sit down with your client, or if you're a business, where you can sit down with the CEO and say, wow, okay, that was a worthwhile investment. These are, yes, we increased our traffic, but even if I had increased my traffic 200%, it wouldn't have mattered as much as this, because this is going to lead to, again, lower bounce rates, higher click-through rates, just a better utilization of your future marketing dollars. All right, so I'm actually going to back out of that slide for a bit. So one of the principles of conversion optimization is attention ratio. And when you're designing a landing page for a website, you want to have a 1-to-1 attention ratio, meaning that you have, if you have every landing page for your paid advertising, please don't apply this to your homepage, every landing page for your paid advertising should have one call to action, and therefore it should have one button or one link. Now that rule doesn't follow if you have multiple buttons to the same call to action. So for example, if you have, a paragraph about, are you ready to work with a Canadian company? Click here. And that leads to the same form as the next paragraph that says, do you need 24-hour funding? Click here. And those are both leading to that same page. And it's following that same call to action or desired action, then we're okay. But what happens is when we end up in a situation like this, you have so many things fighting for your attention that you just shut down. And this happens, this is an extreme example, but pay attention to it when you're working with other websites where you actually don't know what to do. You don't know what to look at. and you move on. And I think, important stat here is that people have a smaller attention span. I think many people have heard this by now, than a goldfish. So when we're on a website, you have we have a 5-second test, but it's actually 7 seconds. You have 7 seconds to capture that person's attention, keeping in mind that the first few seconds are that page load time, which is why page load time actually impacts your bounce rates and your conversion numbers. But so let's say you spend the first 3 seconds loading that website, you have 4 seconds left to capture the attention and answer, who are you? What are you offering? How do you get in touch? And how do we do that in a concise manner?
Yeah,
Here's another.
I just wanted to just reinforce that so much. If you just back up to the other slide there, it is with this slide and this example, it is such a perfect example of, I'm sure that to a crawler, to a search engine, everything's here. That looks like the tags are, we got the body text there, we got the images probably have their alt tags set up. SEO language wise, HTML wise, this page is in great shape, right? Maybe that sidebar has a lot of links and maybe there's something there, but HTML wise, this page is in really good shape. But user wise, there's a little bit there's yet to be desired as far as my user experience. But it's so easy to kind of optimize over one or the other. And so that's such a great example. Just looking at that, I'm just like, wow, that that could pass an SEO test in a lot of ways, but not necessarily a user test.
Yeah, and I do want to reiterate that I know this is an extreme example, but pay attention to it the next time you're navigating the internet, and you'll realize that there's often, even with more modern websites, too much going on and isn't necessary. I mean, one thing, for example, is actually, I'll say that for later. Again, a really good definition of attention ratio is actually by Unbounce, which I think we have the link at the end of this deck. Otherwise, I'll add it later. But the ratio of links on a landing page to the number of campaign conversion goals. In an optimized campaign, your attention ratio should be 1-to-1, because every campaign has one goal. Every corresponding landing page should have only one call to action, one place to click. And again, you can go through and look at exceptions to that goal, like I was saying. But in general, keep that attention ratio away from this kind of an extreme. And then I'm going to show you another website. And Colin, actually, I'll run this test on you.
Sure.
So we have this 5-second test. And I'm going to show you this page, this website, for 5 seconds, and I want you to tell me what it's about afterwards. All right?
Perfect.
Here we go. Okay, what's that about?
Actually, I think I can't really pass the test. I saw autism on there, and something about maybe helping, maybe a charity. But no, it did not. I could not figure it out within within the allotted time.
So that's exactly it. I mean, to be honest with you, I went onto this page and I wanted to learn more about this, and I have no idea where to click. I mean, look at this page and tell me, where should I be clicking and what should I be doing? I actually can't answer that question. I don't know what I should be doing. I don't know where I should be clicking. And so, to be honest with you, I didn't actually figure this out because I was like, nope, I can't deal with it.
Well, I'm not being guided. I'm not really, there's no clear purpose to me as a user. And even if I kind of cheat a little bit and maybe look at the top nav first, and I see support, I see Jake's house, your house. I don't know what that means. I don't know why I would click on that. I have no idea what that means. I see why. Why? I don't know what that's supposed to do. And then, the contact us let us know. And so let us know, is that also a contact us as well? You know,
Exactly.
am I letting you know by contacting you? But then why is contacting us there? And obviously, and I say these things with out of complete respect to the businesses and the website owners that we're featuring today.
Absolutely.
This is
Yeah,
not this is not me trying to poke fun at any business or anything like that. I'm just
of
trying to
course.
explore my journey as a user here is all. So yeah, I just want to get that out there as well.
No, absolutely. I mean, great causes, and I actually know that they're currently in the process of, you know, doing some stuff. But as it stands right now, it's a matter of how do we get the person on your website and answer those questions of, sorry, there's a bit of lag time here. There we go. You know, who are you? What are you offering? How do I get in touch? What's the action you want me to complete? What is it that, you know, it's just clear here. And I'm only using this website as an example, not because it's just a good example and an incredible conversion rate. So I'm just trying to help show you that in comparison to something. Okay, so that was best practices, right? Both of these clients, they didn't invest into A/B testing, and yet their statistics are incredible. So I guess the question is, if you know, if that's the case, then why invest in A/B testing? Well, we come into A/B testing with that same marketing definition: define a problem, solve a problem. If you don't define a problem, then yeah, don't run A/B testing. But let's go through and look at this. So when you're approaching A/B testing, that second approach that we have for CRO, it starts with data-driven analysis. I'm getting into Google Analytics. I'm looking at the funnel. I'm trying to find drop-offs. I'm trying to find anything that would suggest that, hey, there's a problem here that needs to be optimized, or that gives us an opportunity to increase conversions. For example, it could be something as simple as you have a form on your website and you're tracking drop-offs on that form. Everybody starts filling out the form, and every time people hit fax, they drop off. That's an example. So whether it's on the form or on a page or in a funnel leading down to a conversion, we want to be tracking that and analyzing where's there room for improvement. Then what we do is we work with the sales team, get feedback from them. Maybe we're going to run some polls to get feedback from the users. You know, was this clear? How did you feel about this? And it's actually okay to set up, I wouldn't do it with a pop-up, but just kind of a survey that pops up from the lower right corner with just one simple question. It's non-intrusive, and you'd be surprised how many people are actually willing to answer that and help you because you're trying to help them. Analyze heat maps. So for those of you that aren't familiar with that, I can track where people are looking by tracking where their mouse is. Typically, where we look is where our mouse is. So you'll see eye tracking or mouse tracking. You can see scrolling, so where people have scrolled to. Are people even reaching the bottom of your page or where your call to action is? Are they dropping off right at the top? We also have click maps. Where are people clicking? Those are actually really handy. Oftentimes, you know, people will click on things I would have never thought they'd click on. I had a free consultation section on a homepage for a client, and there's a form right below. And instead of people clicking on the form that's right below, they actually clicked on the free consultation headline that was right above the form. And I was like, I would have never guessed in 100 years. So I made a free consultation page dedicated to that. There's just many examples of that. So key mapping, excellent. And then session recordings. Oftentimes it's actually really fun. I was working with a health company, and I wanted to observe the behavior of people, men versus women, people that were likely, above 35 versus people that were below 35. And it was almost like clockwork where if it was a woman on this health page, then she was reading all the content we had written, like line by line, going through and reading everything. And men would kind of just, scroll right through and maybe convert, maybe not convert. But it was actually really interesting. So, begs the question, do we create targeted pages? If we can pull the cookie and know who they are, then do we serve two different pages? In that case, we decided not to, but these are all things we can start to hypothesize and say, is there a problem? What's the problem? What are solutions we can hypothesize according to all the data we've collected? And then after you've created something, so I've created a variant, then we can perform some user testing and surveys. Before I mentioned, excuse me, you need to calculate your eligibility. And there's some great calculators out there. This one's pretty, I like this one because it's pretty straightforward. It makes a couple assumptions in terms of your power rate and how basically whenever you're running a A/B test, you need to run it for a certain time period in order to be certain of your results. For example, I actually did a survey for a client just last week where we showed four different designs, and we put out a survey and said, hey, which one do you like better? And at the start, it was, everything kind of even. One took off a little bit. And by the time we had reached 200 surveys, it was a clear winner. And we're like, okay, well, there we go. We've got conclusive data. But what happens is if you don't make these calculations, your test results may say, hey, this failed or this succeeded, but it's a false fail or a false pass. And so we need to make calculations to say, okay, we're willing to have this level of certainty. So I think this one's based on a level of certainty of 95%. And so if I have a 7% conversion rate and want to lift that 20%, not to 27%, but by 20%, and I have 3 A/B testing variants, meaning 3-page designs that I want to test, and I only have 200 site visitors per day, then I actually need to run this test for 80 days in order to have, I think it was 95% level of certainty that the result we achieved is a true pass or a true fail, that variant A truly is better than B and C, or that variant B is truly better than A and C. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's great to know that there are tools like that out there, because honestly, and here at Page One Power, we do a lot of we're always tinkering with the website. We want to try to get more views on certain videos and certain service pages and things like that. We always want to kind of tinker and improve. But we were just talking about kind of a similar thing is like, hey, well, how long do we want to run this test? How long do we want to run this A/B test? And it would be really handy to have this. I think a lot of business owners, this is a really good place. This is a really good kind of rubric to start on. And speaking of Ollie Gardner from Unbounce, he just did a great presentation too. I just saw him at lucky enough to see him at MozCon, and
Awesome.
He was one of my favorite talks from the whole time, and he really did a great job of talking about the importance of user testing. And he was like, if you're going to make a change to a website, to your site, you don't have to go and hire like a focus group or anything like that. Just pull someone, fire off a message on Slack, pull someone from another department, and that's not super familiar with the website maybe or with that part of it, and just watch down, sit them down and watch them go through it and watch them explore it, and you can learn so much from that, and it's free, right? You're not out of pocket, necessarily just grabbing someone and just having them sit down for 5 minutes and walk them through, like, hey, walk through this, sign up for this newsletter, tell me your process, and it's a really good way to learn. So I think,
Absolutely.
out of pocket, there's a lot of really easy and free ways to kind of help with this A/B testing and user experience.
The only thing I would say to that is, whether it's a design feedback you want, or hey, sit down and please use this, just make it really clear that you don't want them to be an expert. You don't want them to sit there and tell you what's wrong with this logo or what's wrong with this design. It's like, sit down. What do you think? You've got, even if I'm showing a logo to a client, you've got 5 seconds to review each one. We can look at it later, but I want to know what your first impressions are, because you're never going to be able to look at it again for the first time.
Exactly.
So just don't try and be an expert. And really, when I'm trying to go through a website, I've kind of trained myself to sit back and approach each website in a critical manner so that I can see, where does that person stray off? What's not clear? What can I improve? And try and have people come in and just, hey, I'm not looking for you to be an expert here. I just would appreciate you navigating to try and purchase this product. I just want to see what you do. And it's, just observe. There's no formal process there. So there's that. I know we're running out of time, and I want to leave time for questions. So I don't think I'll be able to hit all my slides, but I did want to run through this. So increasing revenue, I talked about here, analyzing the traffic funnel. So, I've got marketing action A, I've got marketing action B, and I've got marketing action C. If, excuse me, if individual, let's say Colin goes to a website and converts action A, that's in the marketing funnel, now led into the sales pipeline. So he's converted. He's completed marketing action A. It turns out that if you get him to complete marketing action A, there's a 15% chance of closing him. If he completes marketing action B, there's a 22% chance of closing him in the sales pipeline. And if he completes marketing action C, 26% chance of closing him in the sales pipeline, etc. The number of customers who completed this goal, ... So if I were to look at this, I'd say to myself, well, obviously I want people to complete this goal. I want the most amount of people to complete action C. And yet right now that's the least goal. And also my conversion rate on that landing page or on those pages is 3%. It's also the lowest. Well, now I know where I want to spend some money, right? That's kind of what I was leaning towards when I was saying, we want to do some analysis. We want to identify where the problems are or where the area of improvement is and move from there. Now I also know that, hey, if I can get people to complete B and C, A, B, C sounds like a little bit too much work for a project right off the bat. Maybe we start with improving C. Then we say, how do I create a traffic funnel to lead people where they complete action B and C so that I can get a 35% close rate in my sales pipeline? So this is where data analysis is super important. Then we can take this and say, okay, I know what I need to do at a top level. Where on my website are these pages? How do they look? How are they performing? What do I do? Okay, 3% conversion rate. Let's work on that page. Okay, now that I've completed that, what's the page that leads to that? Well, there's only one page that leads to that. It's the home page. Well, let's get the product pages to move in, or let's add it as a call to action in the header, ... And I just have some examples here. So whether the action is set up an account for 10% off, request a demo, made free trial account, visited a comparison page. So for example, Shopify has brilliant comparison pages. I absolutely love Shopify's comparison pages. They do it so tastefully where they're not bashing anyone else. They get their customer testimonials to talk about why they're better. Brilliant. Whether it's downloading an ebook or, they visited page A, then they left. We had a cookie. We served them an ad. They clicked on that ad and they landed on page B. Maybe that's our action that we need them to take. Whatever it is, we want to be able to define what the actions need to be so that we can end up, so that we have sufficient data to make informed decisions. And I think, there's actually a bit more I wish we could have gotten to, but I do want to have time for some questions if there are any.
Yes, we do have a couple questions actually. And I just wanted to, as far as CRO goes, it's a lot. It's kind of a mix between an art and a science, really. Because you have to have that kind of art, that kind of aesthetic mastery to make a web page and a user experience something that is intuitive and maybe good to look at, and maybe gets them trusting your brand more, those are all kind of intangibles in a lot of ways. But then also you have to be a mathematician and be able to keep track of these, and almost a scientist, and be able to keep track of these and create hypotheses. So it's really it's really a stellar kind of way to kind of go through, and it's a lot of it sounds like a lot of hard work to really be a master in this.
Yeah, I think there's actually a Venn diagram. I don't know if you know what a Venn diagram is. I'll let you guys Google it later.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's this great Venn diagram where
spot on that.
It's like you have science on the one circle and art on the other circle, and their overlap is that sweet spot that you're looking for.
Yes.
I did want to just show this one image in terms of, we talked about the art. Well, there's this eye tracking study by Kissmetrics, and essentially what it's saying is, okay, we know that faces capture attention. So I know that when I put a face there, people are going to look at that face first. So we're trying to predict where are people going to look first, then where's their attention going to go. We're trying to manage their attention. Where are they going to look? Where do we want them to look? What they found was, okay, well, if somebody's going to look at somebody's face, we actually want them to look over here. What happens if I just turn the child's face at the text? Oh, wow, now everybody's starting to read here. Their attention goes here first. Their attention goes here second. So, again, it is an art and a science. How you knowing this stuff, but then how do you use this to, to your advantage? And I guess the two final slides that I have here are, final notes. What's next for your marketing problem? What's the next marketing problem you need to focus on solving? And start to think about creating an efficient and enticing user experience on your website.
Well, that's absolutely spectacular, and I'm glad you covered the baby slides, because I couldn't tell if that was eye tracking or if that was clicks, if that was a click tracking. So I was going to ask, why was everybody clicking on the baby's face first? But it was apparently okay. So it is eye tracking, and that makes a lot of sense as well. So okay, so we had a question here, So, question here from Devin says, is it possible to integrate data from conversions before you had a website into your current web-based conversion data model, right, to kind of make it more of like a holistic view of kind of your business performance? Is that common practice? Do we find that happening a lot, or what's your opinion on that?
Just want to understand it, make sure I understand it. Can you take conversion data from an old or other website and include it somewhere else?
I think maybe he's asking, like, if you're in business and you're selling, I've been watching a lot of the Great British Bake Off. So if you're selling pies or cakes, and then you're in business for 5 years, and then you decide to get a website before that, as a brick and mortar store, that your conversion rate of shoppers inside your store is like what, 25%, 50%. It's probably higher for brick and mortar stores.
Right.
Would you integrate that? Is it a good idea to integrate that data into your website and maybe expect a similar conversion rate, or do you want to start fresh?
Yeah, so great question. What I do when I meet with a client is I want to know this information. I want to know as much about your business as I can. So if you tell me, let's go with that baked goods example, Ryan, my Krispy Kreme donuts sell the best, but butter tarts are my highest margins. I want to sell more butter tarts. There I'm getting two pieces of information. I'm getting the makeup of current sales. So yes, where's the demand? How have you been converting currently? And what are your goals? What are your objectives? How do you want to transition your business? What have you identified it being the growth in your business, right? What you're the expert in your industry. What can you share with me to say, the money currently lies in apple fritters, and we need to sell twice as much of those. And so I take that data and then I do research and I determine, is what the client's saying reflective of what my data says when I'm doing my research? Once I have those data sets, the experience and knowledge of the owner, as well as the online research I've done, I compare them and I go back to the owner with questions. Hey, I noticed you're not going after blueberry tarts. Is there a reason why? Yeah, this competitor is killing it with these they just have very low prices. We'll never be able to compete with that. So we are not actually trying to focus there. Perfect. That explains it. So to answer your question, you're not integrating it directly because you don't know what's happening online. You need to do research online to know what's going on. And then you take your experience that you've had so far, you take your online research, and you make your best practices website, and then you track that to see, did it go according to your research and according to your plan? Maybe there's an opportunity that we missed, or maybe it happens that online research wasn't reflective of the local online traffic you're getting. I hope that kind of answers the question.
Oh, absolutely does. And I was just thinking, if you want to talk about a store, baked goods with high conversion rate, my first thought is Tim Hortons. Probably has a pretty high conversion rate for sure. And then the next question from Pablo. As a little bit of a disagreement here. So they disagree with us a little bit. Says, I thought Jake's house website was pretty user intuitive and easy to follow with the info provided. What search terms or keywords were used to get to that page? So I think in that question is kind of an interesting factor to CRO, which I wish we had more time to kind of cover, but is basically, okay, so you and I, that was kind of confusing to us on the the right off the bat there, but maybe a searcher that is specifically trying to find out about that type of website, and honestly, I don't know what it did. I think it was maybe for like a charity or research. Maybe the searcher intent is different, and that factors in. What have you kind of seen with that?
Yeah, I think data speaks loudest, right? I mean, I maybe was it I can't remember the name of the person who's commented. Sorry, what was
Pablo.
it?
Sorry.
Pablo. Maybe Pablo's right? I mean, I'm using my experience to say I don't think it is. I don't think it's clear. And I would certainly want to focus on bringing clarity. And Pablo, maybe what I would do is, if a few people find it, if you find it clear, that's great. But if 3 of your friends find it confusing and 10 of them don't, how can I make it even more clear so that all 13 people find it clear? And I think that, it's not about, I'm right, you're wrong. It's really, what does the data say? That's what's right and wrong. So, and a proper interpretation of that data. So, yeah.
Perfect. Well, that's unfortunately, we are at the end of our time here today. And if you wanted to just fast forward a couple slides here, just to the last couple slides at the end there, Ryan, if you would please.
Oh, yep. Here we go.
Actually, let's back up to the poll question real quick. Let's just do that real quick as we sign off here. So we have one quick poll question for us today, and just a little bit here. Let me go ahead and launch that out. So poll question is, would you like to know more about what Tastic Marketing or Page One Power could do for your site? And we'd love to hear from you. And Ryan is just spectacular resource and information for anything that we could do that they could do for your site there at Tastic Marketing. And yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for being on today as well. So just really, really excellent, and look forward to ongoing conversations as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'll go ahead. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll go ahead and close the poll there. All right. So let's scoot on to the end there. So for parting thoughts, what do you have a quick parting thought for us?
I guess those final notes really, remember to take the time to define what that next problem you want to solve is, and make sure you take your time to find the right solution. Don't rush into anything. It's unfortunate when we take a cookie cutter solution because it worked for somebody. We want to solve your business problems, your marketing problems. So take that time.
Absolutely. Excellent. Well, and as we sign off here, Ryan, thanks so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure. And thank you, everybody out there, for joining us. We're very happy to have you today.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Excellent. All right. Well, this has been another edition of the Page One Power Panel webinar series. We are happy you could join us today. Recordings will be available on our website and on our YouTube channel shortly after this broadcast, along with all of our past webinars. Keep an eye out for more exciting webinars in the future from Page One Power. And remember, link unto others as they would link unto you.